In today's video, I am making an attempt to show you how much fun this hobby can be, even when you start with the least expensive of the knives and tools associated with their sharpening and maintenance. 95 to 98% of the knife's performance comes from blade shape and size, edge geometry, handle ergonomics, and the locking system. The remaining 2 to 5% of the blade's performance, as well as probably 95% of its price, comes from tangibles and intangibles such as blade steel, its hardness, handle material, designer name, flickability, even acoustics of the knife. But more importantly, it's how much you carry and use this knife. How often do you buy something and then after using it for a little bit, you think, I like it, but I'll just change this one thing about it? The reason I'm removing the blades from these Ozark Trail $10 Walmart knives is because I feel like they came short on style. You see, with a black handle, I would like to have a blacked out blade. And for the orange, I think bare metal looks a lot better than black coating. Interestingly, the blades are not 100% identical in their shape, so I will remain in suspense until the swap is complete. Before I install the blackout blade, I'd like to make it true blackout, so this silk printed logo has to be subdued. I'm using the torch to preheat the blade and then apply a small amount of rubbing alcohol to completely degrease the logo area. The reason you see the adhesive tape on the edge of the blade is to prevent cutting myself while I'm working on it. The paint they use to put the logo on the black blade contains aluminum. That is why I'm using this aluminum black solution that is usually for sale at hardware stores, on Amazon, or the gun stores. And I'm applying enough of it to let it sit, to let it form sort of liquid layer over the logo. I set my timer for 5 minutes and walk away. 5 minutes later, I am ready to examine the results. And because I still see some metallic color showing through, I am degreasing and repeating the process again. Except this second application of the aluminum black took care of it without having to wait another 5 minutes. This solution is based on a very mild acid. However, I would recommend you wear rubber gloves if you're working on this project. Once I'm satisfied with the color, I apply gun oil, which passivates the acid and prevents it from continuing to act on the blade. I will show you how it all turns out toward the end of the video. For now, I would like to show you how I reassemble the knives using the orange handle with now metallic color blade, because it's just easier to see. So on the pivot barrel that has to go into the handle from the side opposite to where the clip is mounted, there's a flat on it that locks it to the liner. You will insert it so it protrudes inside the liner by maybe 1 millimeter, 1/32 of an inch. And then you will put the roller bearing in there and you try to sort of peg it onto that protruding end of the pivot nut. I'm using a toothpick, which turns out to be a very handy tool for this task. I double check to make sure that the bearing is actually centered on that pivot, and if you need to align it, you can come in from the opposite side and just swirl the toothpick around until the bearing lines up. Now I grab my blade, which I also taped off, and now I'm going to push the pivot nut or pivot barrel a little more into the handle, just a little bit proud of the surface of the first bearing there. It leaves me enough room to insert the blade between the liners. At this point, I have to pull back on the crossbar lock just a little bit with my thumb, and I do that to allow the blade to line up with the pivot hardware. Once the alignment is achieved, I push the pivot into the blade, but not all the way toward the handle, because I need to leave some space to insert the second bearing. And I do that by using the toothpick again. Technique is I push it in until I see it through the pivot hole, and I can actually see the inside diameter. And then I use the toothpick, swirl it around until it lines up with the walls of the hole, and then I'm able to push the pivot all the way through. All you have to do now is torque the pivot screw, and you're done. To complete the blade installation process, you just need to tune the pivot hardware to the proper tension so that the knife functions as intended. To do that, I go a little bit tighter than it needs to be and then loosen it up just a little bit. Let me take this tape off. I can't read the minds of my viewers, so if you forget to hit the like, I will never know whether or not you like this type of content. Over the last year, the channel doubled in size, and most of it is due to the fact that I remain interactive with my viewers. And judging by your comments, you found my content much improved. So without these interactions, like hitting the like button or writing a comment, I never know how you feel about the content. I read absolutely every single comment, and I reply to most of them. I also recommend you reading comments left by other viewers because there is a lot of wisdom among my subscribers. Back to the video, here's the result. One Ozark Trail in full hunter colorway, just like some of the more expensive knives for that niche, and the other in full tactical blackout. We're roughly in the middle of the video. Maybe it's a good time to take a coffee break and come back for sharpening. Believe it or not, the Ozark Trail knives come reasonably sharp from the factory, but they won't easily cut into the edge of the paper towel, which is how I test the sharpness. It's much harder to cut into paper towel than, say, newspaper. Anyway, here I am using the Sharpie to darken the edge of the blade. I'll explain why I do this in a second. And I'm using this very inexpensive Sharpall pocket-sized diamond plate. It's 600 grit, and the reason I use it is, I just said it, it's inexpensive, but is of decent quality to get you started. The reason I'm going back and forth, I usually go in a forward direction, but here I'm going back and forth because whoever sharpened it at the factory in China went pretty fast and gave a little bit of a recurve toward the back of the blade. And going back and forth then allows me to go a little faster to remove this extra material near the sharpening choil. As you can see, I keep checking on my Sharpie witness mark to make sure that I'm maintaining a consistent angle and just to see if I'm removed enough material. Because this plate is short, I have to sharpen the tip and the belly curve separately from the straightaway of the blade. I do expect some shouting in the comment section about this technique because a lot of my viewers would prefer to cover the entire length of the edge in one swoop. But when it's not possible, this technique is very appropriate because I am doing my due diligence to maintain the consistent angle. That is why I use Sharpie to witness mark the edge. In the knife community, a lot of folks are concerned with the hardness of a blade. It's kind of like number of cylinders in your car engine. People seem to think that the harder the blade, the better knife is performing. That is not necessarily the case, and there's some gray areas. Performing in what? Edge retention or ease of sharpening? For a hunter who is in the field using the knife, a quick sharpening is more important than the edge retention because she is not cutting from anything super hard. For somebody who uses their blade to cut cardboard boxes, that is much more important because a softer blade will wear out, the edge on it will wear out quicker, and he would have to stop and resharpen it in the middle of the task. blades on these Ozark trails are made out of D2 tool steel. D2 is a very inexpensive steel. That's how they keep the price of the knife under $10. And its sort of prowess is edge retention. Because it's a tool steel, it's designed to cut other steels. And because of that, it can take some significant amount of heating up, because heat is generated when you're cutting steel on steel. They started using D2 relatively recently as blade steel for knife making. We're talking about 25, 30 years ago. It became more and more popular. And it's not completely corrosive. The steel has some corrosion-resistant properties. It's not as good as stainless steel, but it has a high enough chromium content that it keeps it rust-free under normal circumstances. You really would have to leave it in some acidic or salty environment in order for it to start truly rusting. What I'm doing now, and I don't know if you noticed, I was checking the edge with my thumb periodically to see if there's burr forming at the edge. Burr is good, because now what I'm doing is I'm weakening this burr, and when I weaken it enough by reversing the direction of my sharpening grind, when I weaken this burr enough, it will simply pop off and disappear, leaving a very, very sharp edge. And now I'm using my leather strop that also came from Amazon. The strop is made in Ukraine, which is where I'm from, and it's of the highest quality for not a lot of money. You should be able to purchase it between 15 and 20 bucks. The primary purpose of stropping is removing the stubbornness of the burr that still is on the apex. And this time I found some really stubborn burr, and that's why I'm going back to the diamond plate to weaken it even farther. By the way, the grinding passes when you go in a forward direction. You can apply some serious pressure to the blade, but when you're weakening or stropping, the pressure goes way down to about that of a felt pan on paper. This is pretty important to remember. So the grinding pressure is that of like filing with a file, and the stropping or burr weakening pressure is that of a felt pan on paper. I know that the burr has been removed because now the edge feels sticky. It's actually trying to bite into my skin as soon as I touch it. And now I am on the smooth side of the stropping tool here to put a final polish and finish the blade. And look at the difference in performance. It's actually cutting through the edge of the paper towel, which indicates to me the blade is beyond razor sharpness. It's almost heresy to say that shaving an arm is not an indication of the sharpness, but having a continuous cut, not rip, cut through paper towel is. If you don't believe me, try this exercise with the sharpest of your knives and let me know in the comments how it went. Before declaring this knife completed, I check the blade for play, and upon discovering some play, I am using my Hoto driver again to tune it out. And after that, knowing that the blade is still new, I am applying a little bit of a gun oil into the pivot hardware so that all of that hardware is wearing together smoother. It is amazing how close this knife performs to much orders of magnitude more expensive knives. Now that both of these blades are sharp, I would like to circle back and show you the hardness test. This is my NIST certified or independently certified calibration block. Before I do all my hardness tests, I validate that my Rockwell tester is within calibration. The industry standard for Rockwell devices calibration allows a repeatability error of plus or minus 1/2 of a point of hardness. And as you can see, I'm well within it because I got 62.2 HRC and the block is calibrated at 62. So now I can test the blades. And I do 3 pokes per blade to check on the average. I do all of that in one continuous uninterrupted segment so that you know that there is no cheating or finagling of the facts behind the scenes. Whoa! This blade came in on the first poke at least at 61.2 HRC, which is pretty high for D2. Let's not jump to any conclusions yet and do our due diligence by testing it 2 more times. Unexpectedly and somewhat shockingly, it comes at 61.7 on the second poke. I have tested inexpensive blades in the past, and if I recall correctly, that's the highest I've seen D2 in a long time. And the third and final poke for this blade yields 62.1 HRC, 61.7 average. Wow, I did not expect the average to be over 60. I'm curious if all of them will be at the same hardness. By the way, this is not an industry standard method to test 1 or 2 samples out of a batch, because typically at least 5 to 20 samples are required to evaluate a production batch. And here is the reason why. The uncoated blade only tests 57.2 on the first poke, which is much more typical for D2 on inexpensive knives. And on TikTok, Amazon, and Temu knives, you get like 42 to 48. What do we got here? 58.4 HRC. The reason this hardness is more typical is because D2 is not famous for its toughness or ability to resist side loading without chipping or cracking. 57.9 on this poke. And so for this blade, the average is 57.8. So these were the Gen 2 Ozark Trails. But how about the Gen 1? I still have that knife that I broke in the comparison with a Bugout video. Let's see how that performs. In any industry other than aerospace or knife making, the variation of plus or minus 2 points HRC is typical. 58.6 HRC. But in knives, just as in jet engines, the steel's ability to resist wear and to not crack under high stresses is extremely critical, don't you agree? 58.5 HRC. So if you detect a little sarcasm, you are right. And for these 3 blades, really the performance will depend more on how you sharpen them than on their hardness. 58.6 HRC on the third poke, and the average is 58.6 HRC, which is much more typical for inexpensive knives. And between the 3 blades, Ozark Trail averaged 59.4 HRC. I've tested knives in $40 price range at lower HRC before. All right, final exam time. Did we get these Ozark Trails razor sharp? So here's how the brand new utility razor cuts paper towel. It is not as easy of a task as you might think. This is a very fibrous material and, it's challenging. So here's my blacked out blade. As you can see, it performs roughly the same, but I feel like I was able to sharpen this slightly softer blade to a bit of a higher level. Beavercraft strop, Hoto multi-bit driver, aluminum black, Sharpel credit card sized diamond sharpening plate, rubbing alcohol, Sharpie permanent marker, and my butane torch were tools used in this project, and I will link them in the description and in the pinned comment.